My husband forgot our anniversary because he was planning his first wife's memorial service. When I got upset about it, I discovered he'd been too busy planning an elaborate memorial service for his first wife, who died 7 years ago. The memorial is always the same week as our anniversary, and he's apparently done this every single year we've been married without telling me. When I said this hurt my feelings, he told me I need to accept that I'm his second choice and stop being jealous of a dead woman. I'm 32 years old, and I genuinely thought I had a good marriage. I met my husband Daniel 3.5 years ago through mutual friends. He was upfront from the beginning that he was a widower. His first wife, Amanda, had died in a car accident 7 years before we met. He told me he'd done a lot of grief work and therapy and was ready to move forward with his life. I appreciated his honesty and the fact that he didn't hide his past. It seemed healthy. We dated for 6 months before getting engaged. During that time, he mentioned Amanda occasionally, but not excessively. He had one photo of her in his apartment on a bookshelf with other family photos. He told me stories about their relationship sometimes, usually when something reminded him of her. It seemed normal. He wasn't obsessed or stuck in the past. He was just someone who'd loved and lost and was building a new life. We got married in September 3 years ago. Small ceremony, close friends and family. It was beautiful. I was happy. Daniel seemed happy. We moved into a new apartment together, a fresh start for both of us. He brought the photo of Amanda with him, put it on the bookshelf in our living room. I didn't mind. She'd been part of his life. Pretending she never existed would have been weird and unhealthy. Our first year of marriage was good. We had normal newlywed adjustments, figuring out how to share space and make decisions together, but nothing major. Daniel was attentive and loving. We talked about starting a family someday, made plans for the future. I felt secure in our relationship. Then our first anniversary came, September 15th. I'd been excited about it for weeks. I made reservations at a nice restaurant, bought Daniel a gift, took the day off work so we could spend it together. When the day arrived, Daniel seemed distracted and stressed. He said he had a lot going on at work and might need to work late. I was disappointed but tried to be understanding. Work happens. He did work late. Came home after 9, exhausted, barely acknowledged that it was our anniversary. I'd set up candles and made his favorite dinner that was now cold. He apologized, said he'd lost track of time, promised we'd celebrate that weekend. We never did. That weekend, he was busy with something else, and the momentum was lost. I was hurt, but told myself it was just one anniversary. We had many more ahead of us. Our second anniversary, last year, went almost exactly the same way. Daniel was distracted and stressed the entire week leading up to it. On the actual day, he worked late again. This time, I didn't make special plans. I'd learned my lesson. When he got home, I asked if he remembered what day it was. He looked panicked for a second, then said, "Of course he did. Happy anniversary. He was just swamped with work." He promised to make it up to me. Never did. I was more than hurt this time. I was confused. 2 years in a row, our anniversary was apparently less important than work. I brought it up a few days later, tried to have a calm conversation about feeling like our anniversary didn't matter to him. Daniel got defensive, said he did care. He was just busy. I was being unreasonable, expecting him to drop everything for one specific day. We fought about it. Eventually, we dropped it without really resolving anything. This year, our third anniversary, I decided not to have expectations. If Daniel wanted to acknowledge it, great. If not, I'd protect myself from disappointment by not planning anything special. September 15th approached, and Daniel was, predictably, distracted and stressed. More so than usual, actually. He was on his phone constantly, making calls, sending texts, running errands at odd hours. On our actual anniversary, a Monday, Daniel left for work early and came home after 10 at night. No card, no text, no acknowledgement at all. I was lying in bed when he came in, changed into pajamas, and got in beside me like it was any other night. Do you know what day it was? I asked quietly. Daniel froze. Monday? It was our anniversary, third one. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. I've just had so much going on. It completely slipped my mind. It slipped your mind 3 years in a row? That's not fair. I've been under a lot of pressure. What pressure? What's been so important that you can't even remember our anniversary? Daniel was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Can we talk about this tomorrow? I'm exhausted." We didn't talk about it tomorrow or the next day. Daniel was still distracted, still stressed, still constantly on his phone. On Thursday, 4 days after our anniversary, Daniel told me he'd be gone all day Saturday. Something important he needed to attend. "What is it?" I asked. "A memorial service for Amanda." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. A memorial service? It's been 7 years. Yes, I do one every year. This Saturday marks 7 years since she died. You do one every year? I've never known about this. Daniel looked uncomfortable. It's private. I didn't want to burden you with it. Burden me? Daniel, we're married. How is honoring your late wife something you need to hide from me? I'm not hiding it. It's something I need to do for myself, to remember her, to make sure she's not forgotten. Something clicked in my head. When did Amanda die? What's the date? September 18th. 3 days after our wedding anniversary. You've been planning this memorial every year during the week of our anniversary. They're close together, yes. And that's why you're always distracted and stressed and forget our anniversary? Because you're busy planning something for your first wife? Don't say it like that. Amanda was my wife. She died tragically. Honoring her memory is important to me. I'm not saying you shouldn't honor her memory. I'm saying maybe you should tell your current wife that you're doing it, especially when it interferes with our anniversary. It doesn't interfere. They're separate things. They're 3 days apart, Daniel. You've forgotten our anniversary 3 years in a row because you're consumed with planning something for her. How is that not interfering? We fought, really fought, for the first time in our marriage. Daniel accused me of being jealous and insecure. I said I wasn't jealous of Amanda. I was hurt that he'd kept this secret and let it overshadow our anniversary year after year. He said if I loved him, I'd understand how important this was. I said if he loved me, he'd at least tell me these things instead of hiding them. We went to bed angry. Friday was tense and silent. Saturday morning, Daniel got dressed in a dark suit and left without saying goodbye. I sat in our apartment feeling completely lost. I wasn't invited to this memorial, didn't even know about it until 4 days ago. My husband had a whole secret ritual of grief that he'd been conducting for our entire marriage without including me. I did something I'm not proud of. I looked through Daniel's phone records online. We had a shared plan, so I had access. Scrolled back through the past few weeks. He'd been calling and texting dozens of people. I recognized some names: Amanda's parents, her sister, some mutual friends from before she died. He'd been coordinating with all of them, planning this elaborate memorial event. Then I looked further back. Same pattern every September for the past 3 years. Weeks of calls and texts, all leading up to a memorial service I'd never been told about. All during the time I thought he was just stressed about work. I felt sick. Our entire marriage, he'd been doing this. Every year, as our anniversary approached, Daniel would shift his focus to Amanda. Planning, coordinating, remembering. Our anniversary was just an inconvenient date that happened to fall near the more important one. Daniel came home Saturday night around 10. I was waiting in the living room. "How was it?" I asked. "It was good. Meaningful. Amanda's family was there. A lot of people who loved her." "Did you tell them about me?" That it was our anniversary this week? Daniel looked uncomfortable. It didn't come up. The day wasn't about us. Right. Of course not. I took a breath. Daniel, I need you to be honest with me. Where do I actually rank in your life? What kind of question is that? A serious one. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like Amanda is still your priority, even 3 years after we got married, even 7 years after she died. That's not true. I love you. But did you love her more? Daniel didn't answer right away. That hesitation told me everything. Finally, he said, Amanda and I had something special. We grew up together. She was my first love. That kind of bond doesn't just disappear. I'm not asking it to disappear. I'm asking where I fit in. You're my wife. You're important to me. But I'm not the love of your life? Again, hesitation. Love isn't a competition. That's not an answer. Daniel sat down heavily. Amanda was the love of my life, yes. I'm sorry if that's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. She and I had plans, a future, and it was stolen from us. What we had was perfect because it never had the chance to become imperfect. I'll always love her. I felt tears starting. Then what am I? You're my second chance. You're my future. You're the person I chose to build a new life with. Second chance? Second choice? That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. I'm the consolation prize, the runner-up, the woman you settled for because you couldn't have the one you really wanted. You're twisting my words. Am I? Daniel, you forget our anniversary every year to plan memorials for her. You have photos of her all over our apartment. You wear your wedding ring from her on a chain around your neck every single day. I've heard you introduce me to people as my current wife, like there might be future ones. You've never let her go. And I've been trying to be understanding and patient, but I can't compete with a ghost. I'm not asking you to compete with anyone. Yes, you are. You're asking me to accept being second place forever, to smile and be supportive while you dedicate more emotional energy to a dead woman than to your living wife. And I can't do it anymore. Daniel's expression changed from defensive to angry. So what are you saying? You want me to just forget Amanda? Pretend she never existed? Stop honoring her memory? I'm saying I want to feel like I matter, like our marriage matters, like our anniversary is worth remembering. You're being selfish. Amanda died. She doesn't get anniversaries anymore. She doesn't get anything. How dare you be jealous of that? I'm not jealous of her death. I'm hurt by your priorities. My priorities? My priority is keeping my first wife's memory alive, so she's not completely erased from this world. If you can't understand that, if you can't be supportive of that, then maybe you're not the person I thought you were. I stared at him. Maybe I'm not. Or maybe you're not the person I thought you were. Maybe you were never ready to remarry. Maybe you just wanted someone to fill the space Amanda left so you wouldn't be alone. Get out. What? It's my apartment, my name on the lease. Get out. I grabbed my purse and keys and left. Drove to my friend Nicole's house at 11 at night, crying so hard I could barely see the road. Nicole let me in, made me tea, listened to the whole story. He's still in love with her, Nicole said gently. You know that, right? I know. And he's never going to love you the way he loved her, because in his mind, she's perfect. She's frozen in time at her best. You're real, which means you're flawed and complicated and sometimes disappointing. You can't win against a memory. So what do I do? You decide if you can live like this, being second place, because he's told you that's what you are. He's not even pretending anymore. I stayed at Nicole's that night. Daniel texted around midnight. I shouldn't have kicked you out. Come home. I didn't respond. I needed space to think. The next day, Sunday, Daniel called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. I'm sorry about last night. I was upset and said things I didn't mean. Can we please talk about this like adults? I still didn't respond. Monday morning, I went to work. Tried to function normally even though I'd barely slept. During lunch, I got a text from Daniel's mother, Carol. Daniel told me what happened. I'm very disappointed in you. Amanda was a wonderful person, and Daniel is allowed to honor her memory. You're being incredibly selfish and childish." I stared at that text in disbelief. He'd told his mother, and somehow I was the villain? I didn't respond to Carol either. That evening, Daniel's sister Laura called me. "I heard about the fight," she said. "I wanted to give you some perspective. Amanda was like a sister to me. We all loved her. When she died, it destroyed Daniel. We worried he'd never recover. When he met you, we were so relieved. Finally, he was moving forward. But you have to understand, Amanda will always be part of our family. We do the memorial every year. It's important to all of us." "I'm not against the memorial. I'm hurt that Daniel never told me about it, that he's been hiding it for 3 years. That makes him forget our anniversary." "Forget your anniversary?" "Oh." Laura was quiet for a moment. "That's unfortunate timing." "Yes. But still, you should be more understanding. He lost his soulmate. You can't expect him to just move on completely." "I don't expect him to move on completely. I expect him to make room for me in his life, to make our marriage a priority. Is that really too much to ask?" Laura sighed. "I think you're being a bit dramatic. Lots of people have complicated pasts. You knew Daniel was a widower when you married him." "I knew he was a widower. I didn't know I was signing up to be the permanent understudy." "That's harsh." "It's honest." I hung up feeling even more isolated. Daniel's entire family saw me as the problem, the insensitive new wife who couldn't handle her husband honoring his dead first wife. No one seemed to understand my perspective. Tuesday, I got a Facebook message from Amanda's sister, Jenna, someone I'd met exactly once at a family gathering. "I don't know you very well, but I heard you're upset about Daniel's memorial for Amanda. I just want you to know that Amanda was an amazing person. She and Daniel were perfect together. What they had was true love. I'm sure Daniel cares about you, but please don't try to erase Amanda or make him forget her. Some loves are once in a lifetime." I blocked Jenna. I couldn't handle another person telling me how perfect Amanda was and how I needed to accept being the consolation prize. By Wednesday, a full week after our anniversary, I still hadn't gone home. Nicole said I could stay as long as I needed. Daniel had texted a few more times, alternating between apologetic and defensive. I didn't know how to respond. Every conversation seemed to circle back to the same place. He thought I was being unreasonable, and I thought he was being emotionally unavailable. Thursday evening, I finally agreed to meet Daniel at a neutral location, a coffee shop near our apartment. We sat across from each other, both looking exhausted. "I miss you," Daniel said. "Please come home." "I miss you too, but I can't come home unless things change." "What do you want to change?" "I want to feel like I'm your priority, like our marriage matters, like I'm not just filling a space until you figure out how to be with Amanda again." Daniel looked pained. "That's not fair. Amanda is gone. I can't be with her. You're the one I chose to marry. But I'm not the one you would have chosen if she were still alive." He didn't deny it. "No, probably not. But she's not alive. This is the reality. I'm here with you." "You're physically here, but emotionally you're still with her. Daniel, you wear your wedding ring from her every day. You have her photos everywhere. You've introduced me to people as your current wife multiple times." "I don't remember doing that." "You did! At your company picnic last summer, at your high school reunion, both times you said, 'This is my current wife,' not, 'This is my wife.' Like you're acknowledging I'm temporary or replaceable." Daniel frowned. "I didn't mean it like that. It's just, you're my current wife. In the present. As opposed to my past wife. Most people just say, 'my wife.' The word current implies there might be others, past and future. You're reading too much into it." "Am I? Because combined with everything else, it feels like you see me as wife number 2 with the possibility of a wife number 3 if this doesn't work out. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because you don't seem that invested in making this marriage work. You forgot our anniversary 3 years in a row. You've hidden major emotional events from me. You've told me to your face that Amanda was the love of your life, and I need to accept being second. What do you want from me? Daniel's voice rose. I can't change the past. I can't bring Amanda back. I can't erase what we had. I'm doing the best I can to move forward while still honoring her memory. Why isn't that enough for you? Because your version of moving forward still has me living in her shadow. I'm not asking you to erase her. I'm asking you to make room for me, real room, not just the space left over after you've dedicated everything to her memory. Daniel shook his head. I think you're being unreasonable. Grief isn't something you just get over. It's a process, and part of that process is remembering and honoring the person you lost. For how long? It's been 7 years, Daniel. At what point do you focus on the living instead of the dead? Don't you dare. His voice was cold. Don't you dare tell me how long I'm allowed to grieve. You didn't know Amanda. You don't understand what losing her was like. You have no right to put a timeline on my grief. You're right. I don't have a right to control your grief, but I do have a right to ask where I fit in your life. And if the answer is second place forever, then I need to decide if I can live with that. We sat in tense silence. Finally, Daniel said, "What are you saying?" I'm saying I don't know if I can do this. Be married to someone who's still in love with someone else. Someone who will never really choose me first. So you want a divorce because I won't forget my dead wife? I want a divorce because you won't make room for your living wife. There's a difference. Daniel stood up. Fine, if that's what you want, but don't expect sympathy from anyone. You're leaving a widower because you're jealous of a dead woman. See how that plays out for you. He left. I sat there alone, my untouched coffee getting cold, realizing he was probably right. No one would understand. No one would see my side. I'd be the villain in this story, the heartless woman who couldn't handle her husband's grief. But staying meant accepting a lifetime of second place, a lifetime of being compared to a perfect memory I could never measure up to, a lifetime of forgotten anniversaries and memorial services I wasn't part of, a lifetime of being the current wife, with the implication that I was temporary. I went back to Nicole's apartment and told her I was filing for divorce. She hugged me and said she understood, that she'd support whatever decision I made. But even she seemed a little uncertain, like maybe I was overreacting. Friday morning, I called a divorce attorney. The consultation was the following Monday. Over the weekend, I stayed at Nicole's and tried to process everything. Daniel texted sporadically, mostly short messages. Can we please talk about this? And I think you're making a huge mistake. I didn't respond. I needed space to think without his influence. Sunday afternoon, I got a call from my own mother. Sweetheart, Daniel called me. He's very upset. He said you're talking about divorce? Yes, Mom, I am. Over him honoring his late wife? That seems extreme. I felt my chest tighten. Even my mother didn't understand. It's not just about honoring her. It's about him still being in love with her. About me being the backup option. But she's dead, honey. You're alive. You won. Why are you making this so complicated? I won? I repeated. Mom, this isn't a competition. I don't want to win against a dead woman. I want a husband who actually wants to be married to me, not someone who's settled because his first choice died. You're being very dramatic. Daniel chose to marry you. He could have stayed single. He's trying to move on with his life, and you're punishing him for having a past. I'm not punishing him for having a past. I'm protecting myself from a future where I'll always be second place. My mother sighed. I think you're making a mistake.
Good men aren't easy to find, especially at your age. You're 32 now. If you divorce Daniel, you might not get another chance at marriage and children. That stung. So I should stay in a marriage where I'm not valued because I'm running out of time to find someone else? That's your advice? I'm saying you should think carefully before throwing away a marriage over hurt feelings. Life isn't perfect. Compromise is part of being an adult. I ended the call feeling even more alone. Everyone in my life seemed to think I was being unreasonable. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was being too sensitive, too demanding. Maybe expecting to be my husband's first choice was asking too much from a widower. But then I thought about our forgotten anniversaries, about the secret memorial services, about being introduced as my current wife, about him saying Amanda was the love of his life, about the wedding ring he wore every day from his first marriage. And I knew I wasn't wrong to want more. Monday, I met with the divorce attorney, a woman in her 50s named Janet. I explained the situation, expecting her to also tell me I was overreacting. Instead, she nodded thoughtfully. I've handled several divorces involving widowers. You're not the first spouse to struggle with being the replacement. And you're not wrong to want to be a priority in your own marriage. I felt tears starting. Everyone thinks I'm being cruel for not understanding. You're not jealous of her. You're recognizing that your husband isn't emotionally available for the marriage you have. That's valid. The question is whether you want to try counseling first or go straight to divorce. He won't go to counseling. He thinks I'm the problem. Have you asked him? Not directly, but from how he talks, he thinks I just need to accept things as they are. Janet tapped her pen on her notepad. I always recommend trying counseling before divorce, if only so you can say you tried everything. It might give you clarity either way. And if you do end up divorcing, you can honestly say you made every effort. I agreed to try. That evening, I texted Daniel, "I'll come home if you agree to go to marriage counseling with me. That's my condition." He responded within minutes. "Fine. If that's what it takes, I still think you're overreacting, but I'll go." I moved back home Tuesday. The apartment felt different, tense, and unwelcoming. Daniel was polite but distant. We slept on opposite sides of the bed with a canyon of space between us. I found a marriage counselor who had an opening later that week, a man named Dr. Pearson, who specialized in blended families and complicated relationship dynamics. Our first session was Thursday. We sat on opposite ends of a couch in Dr. Pearson's office while he asked us basic questions about our relationship history. When we got to the current conflict, I explained about the forgotten anniversaries and the secret memorial services. Daniel explained about his grief and his need to honor Amanda. Dr. Pearson listened carefully, then said, "Daniel, can I ask you something? Do you feel like you're ready to be fully present in this marriage?" Daniel looked defensive. "Yes, I am present. I'm here, aren't I?" "Physically, yes, but emotionally? It sounds like a significant portion of your emotional energy is still directed towards your late wife." "Of course it is. She was my wife for 8 years. She died tragically. That doesn't just disappear because I remarried." "No one's asking it to disappear," Dr. Pearson said. "But there's a difference between honoring someone's memory and still being in a primary relationship with that memory. From what your wife is describing, it seems like the memorial isn't just a day of remembrance. It's a weeks-long process that takes precedence over your current marriage." "That's not true," Daniel said. "You forgot your anniversary 3 years in a row," I said quietly. "All 3 times you were busy planning Amanda's memorial." "Those things happen to be close together. That's just bad timing." "Is it?" Dr. Pearson asked. Or is there something significant about the fact that your anniversary with your current wife falls during the same period when you're deeply focused on your late wife? He frowned. What are you implying? I'm wondering if perhaps subconsciously you chose this arrangement, if maybe the proximity of these dates serves a purpose for you. That's ridiculous. I didn't plan when Amanda died. That was an accident. No, but you did choose when to get married. You could have picked any date. You picked one that falls right before the anniversary of Amanda's death. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "So what if I did? So what if I wanted something happy during that difficult time of year? Is that so wrong?" "It's not wrong," Dr. Pearson said, "but it does suggest that Amanda is still very much at the center of your emotional life, and you're organizing your current marriage around her memory rather than building something independent." "I loved her," Daniel said, his voice cracking. "I still love her. She was perfect. We were perfect. And it was ripped away from me. I'm sorry if I can't just forget that and pretend it never happened." "No one's asking you to forget it," I said, my own voice shaking. "But you told me she was the love of your life, that I'm your second choice. How am I supposed to build a life with someone who sees me as the consolation prize?" "I never said that." "You did, last week. You said Amanda was the love of your life and I was your second chance." Daniel looked at Dr. Pearson. "Is it really so wrong to be honest about that? To acknowledge that what I had with Amanda was special?" "Honesty is important," Dr. Pearson said, carefully. "But so is consideration for your current partner's feelings. When you tell your wife she's second place, you're essentially asking her to accept a marriage where she'll never be fully valued. That's a lot to ask. What am I supposed to do? Lie? Pretend Amanda meant nothing? No, but perhaps you need to examine whether you're actually ready to be married. Because marriage requires being able to make your spouse a priority. And it sounds like you're not able to do that while you're still so focused on Amanda." Daniel stood up. "This is bullshit. I came here to fix my wife's insecurity, not to be told I'm a bad husband because I haven't forgotten my dead wife." "Daniel," Dr. Pearson said calmly, "that's not what I'm saying." "That's exactly what you're saying, and I'm done listening to it." He walked out.
I sat there in shock. Dr. Pearson looked at me sympathetically. "Do you want to continue the session without him?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Dr. Pearson handed me tissues and waited for me to compose myself. "I don't think your husband is a bad person," he said gently. "But I do think he's not ready to be in a marriage. He's still deeply enmeshed in his grief, and that grief is being directed toward preserving his relationship with Amanda rather than moving forward. Everyone thinks I'm being cruel for not understanding. You can understand his grief and still acknowledge that his behavior isn't fair to you. Both things can be true. You're not required to sacrifice your own emotional needs indefinitely because your spouse experienced a tragedy. So, what do I do? That's up to you. But my professional opinion, you deserve to be someone's first choice, not their second. And if Daniel can't offer you that, you have to decide if you can live with what he is offering." I went home to an empty apartment. Daniel texted around 8 that evening. "Staying at my parents' tonight. Need space to think." I texted back, "Okay." The next few days were lonely and strange. Daniel and I barely communicated. He came home Saturday to get some clothes and told me he was staying with his parents for a while. "I think we need space," he said. "This isn't working." "No," I agreed. "It's not." "I've been thinking," he continued, "maybe we rushed into this. Maybe I wasn't as ready as I thought I was." My heart sank, even though I'd been thinking the same thing. "So what are you saying?" I'm saying maybe we should separate, officially. Give each other space to figure out what we really want. Do you know what you want? Daniel looked at me with tired eyes. I want Amanda back, but I can't have that. So I guess I want whatever comes closest. And I'm not it. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I need to be alone for a while. He left with 2 suitcases. I sat in our apartment, surrounded by photos of his dead wife, and felt absolutely empty. The worst part was, I couldn't even be angry. He was right. He'd been honest, in his own way. I just hadn't wanted to see it. Over the next 2 weeks, we barely spoke. Daniel moved most of his things out. I started looking for my own apartment, something smaller and cheaper that I could afford on my own. Nicole helped me apartment hunt and listened to me process everything in therapy sessions with a new therapist since Dr. Pearson had been a couples counselor. My new therapist, a woman named Dr. Martinez, helped me understand that I'd been accepting crumbs of affection and calling it love. That I'd been so grateful someone wanted to marry me that I'd ignored major red flags. The photos of Amanda everywhere. The wedding ring he still wore. The way he talked about her like she was still his wife. I'd seen all of it and told myself it was fine. It was normal grief. I was being understanding. You weren't being understanding, Dr. Martinez said. You were being invisible. You made yourself smaller and smaller to fit around his grief, and he let you, because it was easier than actually dealing with his loss. 3 weeks after Daniel moved out, I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment across town. It was small and had questionable plumbing, but it was mine. I started moving my things gradually, separating my life from Daniel's. Then, in late October, about 6 weeks after our fight, I got a call from Daniel's sister, Laura. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I've been watching Daniel these past few weeks and you were right. He's not over Amanda. He's been looking at her photos constantly, talking about her nonstop. He even asked my mom if she thought Amanda would have wanted him to remarry. 6 weeks after separating from me, he's wondering if Amanda would have approved? Yeah, and there's something else. He's on dating apps already." I felt like I'd been punched. What? My teenage daughter saw his profile on Tinder. She showed me. His bio says he's a widower looking for someone who understands loss. He's already trying to find wife number 3. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. It was too absurd. So I wasn't enough, but he's already looking for the next one? I think Daniel is terrified of being alone. Amanda died and left him, even though it wasn't her choice. You left him, also not really his fault from his perspective. He's scrambling to find someone else before he has to actually sit with himself and his grief. That's not my problem anymore. No, it's not. And I'm sorry I made you feel like it was. You weren't being selfish. You were being honest about what you needed. I should have supported that. Laura's apology helped, but it didn't change anything. I still had to rebuild my life, still had to process the pain of a failed marriage, still had to deal with the social fallout of leaving a widower. And there was significant social fallout. Daniel's family, despite Laura's change of heart, mostly still blamed me. At a mutual friend's Halloween party, Amanda's mother-in-law cornered me and told me I'd broken her son-in-law's heart. I didn't bother explaining that Daniel didn't have room in his heart for anyone but Amanda. I just left. My own family remained convinced I made a mistake. My mother kept sending me articles about compromise in marriage and the importance of understanding a partner's past. My father called to say that he liked Daniel and thought I should try harder to work things out. Only Nicole and a few close friends seemed to understand, and honestly, that had to be enough. In November, I filed for divorce. Daniel didn't contest it. We'd been married less than 3 years, had no children, minimal shared assets. The process was straightforward. Our divorce was finalized in January, 4 months after our 3rd anniversary that Daniel had forgotten.
I spent the holidays alone in my new apartment. It was depressing, but also peaceful. No photos of dead wives, no forgotten anniversaries, no memorial services I wasn't invited to. Just me, figuring out who I was without trying to fit around someone else's grief. In February, I ran into one of Daniel's friends at a grocery store. We made awkward small talk until he said, "I heard Daniel's engaged again." That was fast. My stomach dropped. Engaged? To who? Some woman he met online. I guess they bonded over both being widowers. Her husband died a few years ago. So he found someone who can compete in the grief Olympics with him? The friend looked uncomfortable. I guess so. Look, for what it's worth, I always thought he wasn't ready to remarry after Amanda. But he was so insistent that he was moving on, and we all wanted to believe him because we wanted him to be happy. I'm sorry we didn't see what was happening to you. Thank you for saying that. I left the grocery store and sat in my car for a long time. Daniel was engaged again, less than 6 months after our separation. He'd spent 3 years married to me, treating me like a placeholder, and now he was doing it again with someone else. The pattern was clear. Daniel didn't want to heal or move forward. He wanted to collect wives who would accommodate his eternal mourning of Amanda. I felt sorry for his new fiancée. She didn't know what she was signing up for, but that wasn't my problem anymore. It's been almost a year now since I left. I'm 33, divorced, living alone, starting over. People still occasionally make comments about how I left a grieving widower, how I couldn't handle his past. I've stopped trying to explain. The people who matter understand. The people who don't aren't worth my energy. I've learned a lot about myself through this. I learned that love isn't enough if the other person isn't emotionally available. I learned that you can't compete with a memory, and you shouldn't have to. I learned that grief can be weaponized, used as an excuse for bad behavior and emotional unavailability. I learned that walking away from something wrong is better than staying in something broken out of fear or social pressure. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, says I'm making excellent progress. I'm dating again, cautiously. I'm honest now about my needs and boundaries. When someone shows me they're not emotionally available, I believe them the first time and walk away. I don't make myself smaller to fit around someone else's unresolved issues. Last month, I heard through mutual friends that Daniel's engagement fell apart. Apparently, his new fiancée found out about the annual memorial services and the shrine to Amanda in his apartment and realized what she had signed up for. She left him, just like I did. I didn't feel vindicated hearing that. I just felt sad. Sad for Daniel, who can't let go. Sad for Amanda, who's been turned into an impossible standard no living woman can meet. Sad for all the women who will try to love Daniel and fail because he's not actually available to be loved. But mostly, I felt grateful that I got out, that I chose me, that I'm building a life based on honesty and mutual respect, even if I'm building it alone. Someone asked me recently if I regret marrying Daniel. The honest answer is no, because it taught me what I need and what I won't accept. It taught me that I deserve to be someone's first choice, not their consolation prize. It taught me that I'm strong enough to walk away from situations that hurt me, even when everyone tells me I'm wrong. I'm not the villain in this story, no matter how many people tried to cast me in that role. I'm just someone who refused to spend her life competing with a ghost. And that's enough.